Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today I want to talk about one of the biggest tips I can give you whenever performing a brake job at any vehicle, any make, any model, any year. And it starts as soon as you take the wheel off. Now generally once the wheel is off of here and the vehicle is properly supported, what do you start going after first? Well, you usually go after the caliper and the caliper bracket so you can get to the rotor underneath and start getting all those old brake parts off of there. The problem with that is, in order to get this caliper off of here, generally you have to push the piston in on there, compress it in, and get the clearance and unstick it so you can get it up and lift it off of here. Plus, a lot of times they have a rust ridge on the rotor right here in the very top, okay? And you're going to want to compress it in to get clearance for that also so you can get it past and get it out of the way. Now, the problem with that is that there's a reservoir of fluid in the back side of it here where the piston, when it's fully compressed, actually sits. When it comes out a little bit, and as the pads wear, it just keeps going further and further out. Therefore, the reservoir behind it gets larger and larger. Well, what happens to the fluid behind here is it generally never really moves. It moves a little bit here and there while your piston retracts a little bit, and then you apply the brakes and piston retracts a little bit, but there's not much movement at all. So that fluid just kind of sits back here, and this is the hottest part of the brake system. So that fluid just sits here and cooks, and it goes through all these different heat cycles, and it actually gets very dirty and acidic very, very fast. And then what you're doing once you start compressing this to do a brake job, you're trying to make your brakes even better and stronger and more safe and reliable. Well, you're pushing all that dirty fluid that's all been reserved behind here all the way up and through the ABS system, namely the hydraulic control unit. Hydraulic control unit is very, very, very expensive. It's about $500 to $1,000 plus labor to install it, and it's not an easy snap-on type deal. It just takes about an hour to two to replace it. At about $110 an hour, you can just add all this up in your head. So in order to avoid contaminating the hydraulic control units and the possibility of a valve sticking inside of it, what you can do is whenever you go to take the caliper off of here and compress that piston in, is take that fluid out the bleeder port into a jug, a container, so it can capture all the old fluid. Now there's two ways to avoid this, and both of them involve opening the bleeder, so you're going to get the cap off of it right here. It's just a dust cap. Okay, we're going to take that off of there, and then we're going to crack the bleeder open so we can put a line on the end of it here, put a piece of clear line on there, and the other end's going to go down to a jar full of brake fluid and be submerged in brake fluid. Then we'll simply continue to compress the caliper piston in, and the fluid's going to take the path of least resistance down into that jar of brake fluid. The other option, which I'm going to use for this demonstration, is a vacuum brake bleeder, and what that'll do is that'll ensure just about all the fluid comes out of this piston goes to the jar, not up through the ABS system. With this having a vacuum on it, it's going to be the very least path resistance. That actually is going to suck the fluid out as we are pushing the caliper piston in. Now, this isn't a foolproof way of doing this. This is just about the only way of doing it, but it's not foolproof. You get by 95% of the fluid back into your jar and not through the ABS system. So what we're going to do is we're going to compress the caliper piston slowly so it has that chance to get through that narrow channel and hose out to our jar instead of following the other path up through the ABS system. So this is how it's going to look. I'll do a little demonstration with the vacuum brake bleeder. Of course, I'm going to turn it on. It's going to be a little bit loud, but I'll try to talk over the brake bleeder on here. Let me try to get it pointing away also. There we go. So we have our line cracked on here already. We have our line attached to it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure the other end of it's submerged in the brake fluid, or if you have a vacuum brake bleeder, turn it on. Okay. And then we're going to open it all the way. Okay, couple turns, and then you can start compressing it in. And like I said, do it slowly until it fully bottoms out on there. And you'll see the fluid coming out here is nice and dark. Then once the piston's bottomed out, you simply tighten the bleeder all the way. Okay. Plug it down. We can take our C-clamp back off of here. Okay, once the caliper is off and on top of the caliper bracket here, what you want to do is pull the inner pad off of there, and we're going to inspect the piston to make sure it's fully retracted in the bore. This will make sure that we get all that fluid out into the jar and not up and through the system on there, and we're finally done with that. We move on to the rest of the brake job. If it's not fully retracted in the bore, make sure you keep the inner pad on. Okay, and then you're going to do the same exact procedure, either vacuum bleeder or the clear line into the brake fluid submerged, same idea, and we're going to continue compressing it with our C-clamp until it's fully seated on there and bottomed out. At that point, you simply take it off of there. Again, make sure that it's fully compressed into there, nice and flush like this, and then you can continue on like you would normally with the rest of your brake job. Now, one thing to remember with this procedure is to have plenty of brake fluid on hand. When you're compressing that piston in, especially if you have a vacuum bleeder, it's going to suck it down pretty fast. You want to keep it topped off at all times and make sure you have the correct fluid. Now, the fluid's usually stamped into the housing on the plastic housings like this, the reservoirs, or like this one has a sticker back here, and of course your owner's manual will have the information. What I can tell you is just about all Fords up until I'd say 2013 use DOT4 PM1C, which is this fluid right here. Now the newest vehicles, scattered models and years from 13 on, actually use DOT4. Now the other thing you want to make sure of is that you keep this reservoir topped off and full the whole time the procedure down there is going on. So either you keep it topped off and you be mindful of this, or have a helper up here constantly pouring brake fluid into here to keep it topped off at all times so there's no air trapped in the master cylinder on here. What you have to realize also is brake fluid is very caustic. It will melt paint and especially the clear coat on your vehicle. So be very mindful when you're working with this stuff. It's very, very bad stuff. Now it goes without saying that hand protection is also a very good idea anytime you're doing a brake job, and of course touching any kind of brake fluid, any chance of spillage onto your hand. You want to keep that from happening in the first place. Also with this procedure, you have to keep a closer eye on the brake fluid level after all the brakes are done, and you pump the pedal up, you get that firm pedal, and then what you want to do is come back out here and make sure it's to the full line on there, because the fluid level will change with this procedure over a normal brake job. So hopefully this brake system tip helps you avoid a costly ABS system failure soon thereafter or immediately thereafter doing a brake job on your own vehicle or a family and friend's vehicle. And that's the whole point of this channel, is to help you guys do it yourself and do it right.